Hey yo, salute to the people. It's the social forecast. Um, I'm back hitting the ground running, fully energized, ready to really bring in this new year. A lot of energy for the channel, a lot of content, and this video here no different. So let's just get straight into the government shutdown. Now, first of all, before I get into exactly what my thoughts, sentiments are revolving around this, partial government shutdown. First thing is this: why did I wait so long to do a blog on this government shutdown on this platform? So, the quick, short, and easy answer to that is nobody expected this government shutdown down to be going on this long. Now, I have been following it since just before the new year. We're coming up on officially a month very shortly that this partial government shutdown has been in effect. And partial by partial shutdown, it just means that not all bureaus and federal agencies and aspects of the federal government are shut down, just certain ones. Um, and basically, for those of you who are a little less informed, not that I'm super informed, but just a little less informed, government shutdown is in effect essentially when funding is either pulled or an agreement on funding and budget is not reached for certain sectors of the government. Then you go into what is called a government shutdown. Now, another part of the reason for why I did not speak on this government shutdown on the platform sooner is because, and I've been speaking with people, of course, offline, and be it at work and people that I come across and interact with in my everyday life. I'm noticing that there are two sets of people that I come across more often than anyone else pertaining just to this government shutdown. You have a certain part of the population who seems not to be aware that this is not a new thing. Hold on one second. I'm gonna close my sunroof to get some of this wind noise uh, out of here so I could really speak to y'all about this. All right. So you got a certain part of the population who think for some reason that this government shutdown is a new thing. Never heard of it before, didn't know what it meant. And that's not a shade, throwing shade or shots at any of those people because until very recently, most people didn't even bother to get involved with politics. I'm just someone who happens to uh, want to stay informed and want to be kept abreast to what's going on, behind closed doors with the federal government, with the local government, whoever, wherever, whatever, because decisions that are made pertaining to laws, legislation, and budgeting for uh, different public uh, uh, projects and different agencies that could affect myself, my children, the housing sector, whatever you want to call it. These things affect all of us. And so I've just always been someone who has always wanted to stay abreast of those types of things. And I don't keep up with it as much as I should, but I do at least keep up with it, I think, slightly more than the average person. And so I first learned about the government shutdown, like I said, shortly before New Year, sure, just as it was um, getting ready to go into effect. Um, so to summarize, from my perspective, essentially, uh, Donald Trump threw another one of his temper tantrums. He's, in my opinion, holding the government hostage due to lack of funding for uh, the border wall that he campaigned on. Now, this is like his campaign legacy, right? Just like uh, President Barack Obama campaigned on universal health care, that became his legacy. And if he hadn't accomplished it, then that would have put a huge stain on his presidency. Now, this is that thing that Donald Trump campaigned on. Put me in office. I'm going to erect a wall that will keep foreigners out who try to come here illegally. Um, make our country safer, better, blah blah blah. So, again, for the people who think this is a new thing, it's not. For the people who think that Obama started this, he did not. Government shutdowns have been a thing since the 70s. Um, like I said, it doesn't happen often, and when it does, there are usually clear reasons as to why, what it is that is causing it, and what potentially can be done in order to correct the issue. And they never last this long. This is officially the longest running government shutdown since government shutdowns became a thing back in the 70s. It's never a planned thing. It's just, Congress has different sessions, right? There are sessions when they are in, sessions when they are out. Certain uh, budgets for, these government agencies and things that keep, public works and social security and disability and the IRS sector of the government, people who get income taxes and all these different things. People who are on food stamps, people, everything that is potentially uh, uh, run by a government and overseen by a government agency, USDA, for meat inspection and shit like that. They all have to have a budget, like anything else. And this is part of the reason why I tell people, and they give me flack for it. The country is essentially a corporation. It's a business. Every sector has to have a budget, and that budgeting has to either be approved, has to be altered, or be denied. And so and we've been seeing it since the 70s, not every single term, but we have seen it throughout the decades. Whenever a budget is not approved, whenever a budget is in question or needs to be altered or sides can't agree, we go into what is called a government shutdown. It could either be partial or it could be a full government shutdown. Okay, so having said that, the main reason now that I've decided to speak on this platform isn't because of Donald Trump. It's not because just to say that it's not a new thing. It's because my uh, bias and my subjectivity, not objectivity, subjectivity on this topic is more toward my empathy for the people who are classified as essential employees, people like air traffic controllers, right? People who have those government jobs, um, which in their contract states that they are essential employees, cannot go on strike, and in the event that there is a government shutdown, partial or whatever, they still have to report to work as if there was no government shutdown. The only caveat is they will not be paid. Now, certain essential employees, in the event of a government shutdown, partial or otherwise, will be compensated retroactively once the government is back up and running and once those sectors reopen. And then, of course, there are some people in danger of just not getting that money at all, losing that money. That part will be sorted out. However, those things get sorted out, I don't pretend to know the inner workings of that type of shit. I just know what I know. Um, but regardless, if you're going to get paid, if you're not going to get paid down the line, those essential employees, those people who still have to report to work without pay, can't seek other jobs in the meantime because they don't know if tomorrow this government shutdown is going to be lifted and then everything's business as usual because they still have to go to work. They can't, uh, you know, say, well, if there's a government shutdown, I got to go find part time work or temporary work until I can get back into this thing. And then you ask, well, are those people able to collect unemployment while they're forced out of work? How? If there's a partial government shutdown. If it's affecting the IRS, if it's affecting food stamps, if it's affecting Social Security in certain ways, and not in every state, because there are going to be some people who will comment and say, "What are you talking about? Social Security is not being affected. Food stamps aren't being affected. They are being affected, just not in every state." I know that for a fact from the people that I've spoken to who have gotten their payments late or not at all, and what have you. So, unemployment, federal, largely a federal program, although it is run state to state. Um, those people who are federal workers, I, I don't know how it would work, but I do know that there have been several talk shows and news stories covering interviews with people who are deemed and classified as essential workers, still having to go to work every day, but just not being paid. And that is enough to totally, uh, let's not pull punches, fuck somebody's life up. Let's be honest. There's a very small percentage of the population, uh, of the, I don't know, 300, what is it, 300 million people in America? I don't fucking know. Very small percentage of that population who do not live paycheck to paycheck. Let's just be real. Even those of us who make pretty decent money, I mean, me, on paper, I make just about 70K a year, you know, and, you know, that's not even considered middle class. You know, I have three kids, a family of five. A family of five in 2019 in this country, and of course, depending where you live, a family of five to even be considered middle class nowadays, you have to be making somewhere in the range, if I'm not mistaken. I read it recently on the Wall Street Journal. Um, Something like 125 to $127,000 as a family of five to be considered middle class household income. Combined, my wife and I probably make 95. So we technically wouldn't even be considered middle class. It's a whole different thing nowadays. You know, that kind of money in 1995, you would have been considered very well off. You know, definitely in the upper middle class. It's not like that anymore. It's a whole different day. I say all that to say the vast majority of us, even people with a higher income, are living paycheck to paycheck. People think that just because of the income you make, that determines where you fall on that class, whether it's lower, middle, or upper class. And that's not the case because it's all about debt to income ratio. You can be making seven figures, but if you own a home with a mortgage of $450,000 and you have a $80,000 car that you're making payments on, and you have $30,000 in credit card debt that you manage from month to month, year in and year out, you're not going to be middle class. You're still living paycheck to paycheck. Most of us can't go. What is it? The old uh, general rule of thumb was something like you should have at least 6 months worth of your salary saved up, or 3 months, or something like that, so that if something happens, you have a little bit of a cushion. Who can do that in 2019? The only people who can really do that are the people who would be able to weather a temporary government shutdown. Most people don't fit in that category. Why? I'll tell you. Because it's not the 1%. It's not the 10%. It's not even the top 20% that really keep the economy going. It's the middle to lower class, people who can't afford to save because we need things that we don't necessarily have the resources to get. And so we constantly have to put that money back into the economy every single paycheck. Um, we're the ones who keep the economy moving. We're the ones who are more hard pressed to hold on to those paychecks. And so, due to that fact, um, hang on, this person right here is trying to prevent my lane change. They don't know who they're fucking with though. Um, so yeah, the majority of us who live paycheck to paycheck is not just because we're just broke or we just don't know what to do with our money. No, or don't know how to manage our money. No, the problem is that the majority of the income that is coming in is income that is necessary just to sustain bills and the necessities. Um, Only people who have surplus can store away or invest in the stock market and have 401ks. Now, mind you, I have a 401k, but it's not nothing crazy. You know what I mean? Like that's just me being a little bit forward thinking and proactive because I have children and understand the need for something like that for the future and life insurance and things like that. But the vast majority of people can't think about life insurance because they can't even figure out what to do to get by while they're fucking here, let alone trying to put something away and trying to have a safety net plan for their loved ones for when they leave. That's just out of the question for a lot of people. It just is what it is. So back to my point, this government shutdown is affecting a lot of people, even the people who might not be uh, employees of the federal government. They might be married or dating someone, married to or dating someone who is. So those families and households are still affected. And for most people, it doesn't take much more than 1 to 3 paychecks to be missing for you to really start to get into trouble. And this idiot really had the nerve to go on record and say, well, listen, when he was asked the question, listen, landlords and um, mortgage companies, you know, if they understand why I want this wall built and they understand what we're trying to do and that it's about national security, they're going to understand people's situations and they're going to give people a break when they can't pay their mortgage or their rent. Fuck. Only, I apologize. I don't mean to laugh so early in the morning, but only somebody in the 1% would say some dumb shit like that. Only somebody who could go a few weeks and months without a paycheck, without it really seeming to affect them. Only somebody in that position would say some dumb shit like that. We all know that no fucking mortgage company, finance company, no bank, no landlord, no credit union, no fucking, no fucking uh, um, bank that you have your car loan through is going, or credit card company, or whoever you owe money to, is going to be like, oh, you haven't paid your car note in 2 months. If this thing continues, or you haven't paid your mortgage in a month, you're almost a month behind. Oh, but it's because you're a government employee and the government shut down. Okay, we understand. No, that shit's still gonna go on your credit because why? Because you see, credit is a great thing when everything's going fine and you have the income to justify credit being extended to you, and you have the history of paying your bills, and uh, financial institutions and banks will extend credit to you because they feel that you will, in good faith pay it back and that you have the resources to pay it back. But the downside to credit is that they don't care why you can't pay it back. They may say that they do, they may have different programs, and they may seemingly give the impression that they will work with you. But at the end of the day, they are expecting you to have the money to pay your bills when they're due, and they don't really care what is the reason for why you can't. That will not keep it from necessarily going on your credit report as a late payment, or potentially putting you in a position to have your car repossessed or your home foreclosed on. At the end of the day, the world will keep turning and doesn't give a fuck about people. My problem, though, my biggest problem, for the people who have to go to work every day, not being paid, don't know when and even if, in some cases, they're going to be reimbursed for the work that they're doing that they're not getting paid for, is the fact that, in my opinion, and I could be totally wrong, and I would invite anybody to uh, debate with me about the following, what I'm about to say. How is what Donald Trump is doing right now, and I'm not talking about government shutdowns in general, I'm talking specifically about this situation. So don't hit me with the bullshit about, oh, Obama let the government shut down and this president let the government shut down. I'm specifically talking about the nature of this particular shutdown. How is it any different from allegedly back during the mob days, uh, them sending someone into a business and saying, listen, your business is pulling in $10,000 a week. We want 2,000, or you're going to have issues. Essentially, that's extortion. You're essentially holding that person's business hostage, predicated on them paying you a fee to leave them alone and let them operate their business in peace, for fear of bodily harm or destruction of their business. And that's what extortion is, a threat, and a threat to follow through on that threat unless payment of some sort is forthcoming. It's no different than a ransom. Kidnap someone uh, because you want finance, some type of financial gain from that person's loved ones who you believe to be, to have those resources. It's extortion. Saying you don't want to give me the budget to build this wall to keep those people out, not my words, fine. Let the government shut down. I'm not approving any budget, any plan you put in front of my desk because I have to sign it. And I'm not signing it until you give me the money that I want to build my wall. How is that not extortion? You're putting literally, like, not saying, listen, this is a service that we need for the people, and that service is legitimate and justified, or saying that, listen, this is, you know, some issue that requires us to fix it, and da 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 da. Whatever the reasons were for government shutdowns that have happened in the past, you are literally saying, give me the money I would like for my wall, or else I will shut this bitch down. How's that not extortion? Comment below and please let me know how it's not. Hey, yo, I don't pretend to know everything. I just know what I know. If you're new to the channel, I invite you to stay a while. So please like, comment, and subscribe. It's the Social Forecast. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace and love.